What up, everybody? Welcome to the first ever official weekly episode of Titan Tuesdays, and we only started 4 minutes late. We'll work on that. I was lagging. I was eating a muffin. But
I was
okay.
eating what was I eating? Sunny side eggs up.
Wow. Okay. Is that your favorite? Is that your preferred type of egg?
Actually, believe it or not, I don't really have a preferred type. I like the way most eggs are cooked. I eat hard boiled. I eat sunny side up. I eat scrambled. So
my favorite type of egg is poached, but my wife likes scrambled, and I don't have the energy to cook two different types of eggs when I'm cooking eggs. So I just commit to scrambled eggs in my household. But anytime I go out to a diner, I'm like, "Can I get poached?" And then they're like, "Yeah." So
got to take advantage of the different types when you can get them.
right,
If you don't want to
right.
work for the extra, I suppose.
Okay, you know what? I forgot to click the schedule button. That was my bad. So it said we were going to go live at 10:51. But you know what? Good things come to those who wait, It's first show jitters. Come on, it's our first live show together.
We will get this thing right at some point. Get the minutia of everything down.
But I don't think buff muffins are banned. Okay, maybe sunny side up eggs need to be banned because I was on time. I think sunny side eggs.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Dude, the sunny side up eggs got to me.
Shouts out to James, the backbone of comic book YouTube. 1 p.m. to 11 a.m. Okay, time keeps changing. I did my best. Okay, we had to make a background. We had to make an intro video.
I had to make a logo. I was like, what do I do specifically? I had to download the specific font.
I know that looked like a premium font. Do you have like a subscription service to a font?
I have. I have. I think it's included. It should be included with Adobe.
Oh, nice. Okay, that looked like a very Titan font. Like that was literally perfect, dude. What was the name? What was the name of the font? I love.
Was it? I have it written down in my sketchbook because I had to make like 3 fonts over the weekend. And so over that, I was like, okay, I need ideas. So I just scoured on the internet. Let me look.
While we're doing that, we'll say hi to Indie Comics Corner. Give me 1 second, man.
Should be halogen. I could be wrong. Because I downloaded 8 fonts. I used all 8 fonts for different logos over the weekend, so I am tuckered.
Sorry about that. New coworker not knowing that I don't work until later today. I got my schedule changed for this officially. So that shouldn't happen again. It was actually a coworker, but that was my friend Jordan, who I run the channel with, calling, and he was like, "Hey man, are we filming today or tomorrow?" And I said tomorrow. I got some new books to show off from a little haul if you want to see them.
Let's go ahead and look at them, dude.
We'll go from, you want to go largest to smallest or smallest to largest?
Smallest to largest.
Okay. So up first, we have Wonder Woman Earth 1, which I've heard mixed things about this book. I've actually never read.
I like it a lot.
You do like it, okay. I heard she loves her lasso in this one. This looks like a perfect question for you, because I feel like you're trying to be Mr. Finest, right? Like
I am starting a new series on my channel called Dom's Finest. On top of, I'm going to be working with Marvel's epic podcast person Curtis closely on discussion and speculation on him. It looks like they're going to be completely committed to pushing all of these out in a tight knit schedule. It's not just, they are starting off with the Trinity, which I think is the perfect way to sort of start this line off. But they are pushing out characters that I had no idea that they would have committed to in the first place, like Peacemaker, Metamorpho, Plastic Man. These are characters that I never would have expected to get a DC Finest line at the start, but it does seem like they are on track to push these out. And they're not just doing or staying to one certain era for each and every character. they're jumping around with Superman. Like you got the first Superman comics at the beginning, and then you're immediately jumping to material in the late 70s. Same thing with Wonder Woman, where her first series is off with the Simone run, and then the next series is the next book is right before Crisis on the Infinite Earths hits. So it looks like they're going to be completely committed to this thing. I mean, I know I am, and I'm pretty happy that they're doing so.
Okay, exactly. I was having the same thought. It's probably characters James Gunn will use in upcoming movies, because it seems like that'd be such a good way where you see the movie and you're like, wow, like I really liked Metamorpho in this movie or Plastic Man in this movie. And you go to a comic book shop and you see an easy, accessible, not horribly expensive, collection of Plastic Man. Why not, So I think it's all about getting, new people into comics. Got another small, tiny one. I got Batman Hush.
Is this like your third, or how many prints of Hush do you have?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I have a trade paperback. I have an absolute. I have an omnibus. Yeah, but come on, this is like in case someone I meet needs to read Hush. It's easier to give them this, loan them this, than loan them the omnibus, right? But I feel kind of like it's less exciting than what you and Curtis are doing, but I want to be like Mr. Compact, even though Dom's Finest sounds way cooler and way better than Mr. Compact. I did a video for the Compact Comics, the first wave, and it's still doing phenomenally. Like literally, like it got like an extra 1,000. The video was shot when the first two came out, and it just got another 1,000 views in the past 2 days. So people are really interested in the Compact Comics. So my whole thing is I want to get new people reading comics, and I don't think there's a better way than.
I mean, it's the perfect introduction, right? Like a $9.99 for some of those books, which have over 300 pages too. You're not going to find a better price per page than those compact editions. And even though it might not be for me, it is going to be for that one person who might be hesitant at first to get into comics because of either the high price range or just not knowing where to start in general. So I'm really happy for all of those guys.
It's also fun because they're sold at an LCS for $10, which means like you can buy it at cover price. And it's not like an omnibus where I'm not going to buy an omnibus at an LCS because the price disparity is like completely different, Hold on, my cat wants to come in. You can come in. We let them have no collars for the summer, but now we have them wearing Halloween collars. So I got a couple single issues, which I don't normally collect. I got Johnny Quest from Dynamite, because I interviewed
Mr. Joe Casey.
Joe Casey. And then these 3 I got because I might do some stuff with, have you heard of Ghost Machine?
Of course.
Okay. I hadn't. They emailed me and they were like, you and Jordan are avid comic book collectors, so I'm sure you know everything about Ghost Machine. And I was like, let me go to the comic book store and be right back before I email you back. So I got Geiger, the deluxe edition, which I read and absolutely loved. And then I got what I think is the second Geiger series.
That is the second, after the relaunch
one shot
with their $4.99 64-page one shot.
I mean, it's just like, I'd never heard of Ghost Machine, and at first I thought it was one of those things where it's like someone was trying to get me to review their like individual comic, like that they created themselves, and then they sent me an email with all the creator names.
It's Jeff Johns' personal imprint at Image
and
Comics.
I was like, no, this is not just someone's like.
No, I mean they got like Johns and his friend brought all of his friends over to do a pretty cool imprint at Image, and they're all telling some pretty phenomenal stories.
In a shared universe, it's like from like the 1750s to the 2050s. There's going to be horror. There's going to be like sci-fi. So it's like, I think it's cool because it's not, Geiger isn't what I would call a full-on superhero thing, but it's superhero enough to where you can still like it if you like it. And then I got 2 last books to show off. You'll like this one. I got Birds of Prey by Kelly Thompson. Believe it or not, my first Kelly Thompson book ever. So I read that.
I mean, it's not a bad place to start at all.
And now I'm reading Black Widow, and I don't think I've ever had my heart ripped out of my chest in a more painful fashion than in her Black Widow. Have you, did you read her Black Widow?
Of course. I am a very, very big Kelly Thompson fan.
I know, because you guys were talking about her because she's doing Absolute Wonder Woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I didn't know who she was, but I'm going to be interviewing her soon in September or October, and I'm trying to research her before. Now, my last book is kind of the opposite of a compact edition. I got the Justice League Dark Rebirth Omnibus.
Hey, that is one of
So
my
I read
favorite
about the
post rebirth runs.
I read the first 20 issues and single issues, and then I stopped collecting single issues. But basically, I pre-ordered. I've never read Astro City, so I pre-ordered the Opus edition on Target like a year ago with the gift card, and then they canceled my pre-order because that book got delayed so many times and pushed back so many times. So I had to fight with them because I had thrown away the gift card, so I had to like talk with customer service to get my gift card back, and uh that got me Justice League Dark. So that one was nice. We got some friends here though. Oh man, love to finish this one mission before you have my complete focus. Did you finish it? Let us know. Shouts out to Bat Kato, who has the coolest basement in collected editions. That's what's fun is both him and his partner both collect different nerdy things. So she has a bunch of like single issues that are like graded and slabbed if something is killing the children, and a bunch of those bomb style statues. And then I think they have every Funko Pop ever made, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty
and
cool.
then Rodimus Prime. Okay, good morning, Comic Dude Bros.
Good morning.
So I'm really into Ghost Machine stuff. It's got some insane. Yeah, dude, it's a master class of the who's who in creating comic books. It's phenomenal. And then wait, is it okay? You know what? We're moving past the time thing. We ate a muffin and a sunny side up. You want hosts on this show who are fed. Nothing's worse than a hangry Dom, you know.
That is very true, honestly. That
And
is
then
very true.
lastly, I have a suspicion John's approached DC about doing a new universe with characters and was declined, similar to more with Watchmen. If that's the case, it makes sense he'd go to something new.
I did email the people at Ghost Machine if there was any way that I could interview one of their creators to talk about the process. Maybe I'll go over that. Because I've like a couple of the artists have been interviewing on like super small YouTube channels.
Yeah.
So I figure, I mean, I have a big enough platform now to get recognition. I also work for NMC, so hopefully it gets me the
Play
press.
that. Yeah, play that. I feel like, do you want to play that card right away, or do you want to like use that as your ace in the hole? You know, be like, oh yeah,
I have no
it's
idea,
Jake.
honestly.
What is that about? And I love that the dog's face matches it. That dog looks disgusted in me. Guy, have you read Geiger yet though?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Oh my god, dude. Like, also, it was so nice reading a book with Gary Frank art that was already collected, because nothing, I love Gary Frank's art, but nothing is worse than when things get delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed because his art is so good it takes time. So being able to just sit down and read it all in one sitting was awesome. And I'm not a parent, but I have cats, and I was like, I would have gone to these lengths for my cats. I would have gone to the lengths that Geiger went to protect my cats.
No, I mean, I would have. I mean, it's not only a great story. I just really appreciate that whoever at their imprint said, because they are the same size as the Remender Deluxes. I mean, they're right there. Probably pull them out after I finish my thought, but I really appreciate that they had the galls to print them in the same size format as the Rick Remender Giant Generator Deluxe hardcovers.
Here, we can do it right here. That way you don't have to get up. So they are, yep, same size. Dude, they're gorgeous collected editions.
I hope because Kyle Higgins has his own imprint too called the Massive Verse over at Image as well, and the first deluxe of that with Radiant Black, which is the main book, is coming out in late October. My suspicion is that they are probably going to put those deluxes in the same size as well, because they did. I think the editor on Discord mentioned. I could be wrong, so someone fact check me if this is wrong. The editor mentioned that the deluxe size books are going to be bigger than your traditional quote unquote deluxe oversized hardcover, which gives me hope that they're going to print Radiant Blackout in the same size as those two.
I've
So
heard good things about that one as well, but I
it's
haven't
amazing,
read it.
man. Image has got at least for their imprints, they're doing a lot of really cool stuff over at that company.
I think for me, and maybe this is my advice for you, which I think you already don't even need the advice, but as you start to grow in a YouTube channel, YouTube tries to find like what your specific niche is. So even though collected editions is already a niche, my channel skews very heavily DC, and anytime I tried to do a non-DC video, the videos would kind of underperform. So that made me feel like I could only cover DC, and for a while that's what I did. But now I just want to read more things. So I did some Dynamite videos. They didn't do that well, but I don't care. I just want to support the smaller creators and the smaller publishers and stuff. So just always cover exactly what you want to cover. Don't just feel like you have to listen to what YouTube tells you. You know, that'd be my advice as a growing creator.
For sure, for sure.
I hope they do the entire series that size. The art is too good not to, and the price is amazing for them.
Yeah, Junkyard Joe is going to be the next one out. Very excited for that one because I really enjoyed that series too. And then yeah, whatever they decide to put out next is they obviously you got the rest of the four. Like you got Geiger, Red Coat with Brian Hitch, the one with Jason Fabok. It's slipping off the top of my head right now.
Is it
And then
Rook something?
yeah,
Or
Rook Exodus, and then Ivan Reyes on Hyde Street, which is going to start not too soon.
Is Hyde Street the first one in their horror universe?
Yes.
Okay. So, and also shouts out to Ghost Machine as a company for going to creators big and small. And also, like, they didn't email me and go, "Hey, the Brave and the Boys." They emailed us and go, "Hey, Jake and Jordan." So it's like, do they actually, I don't know if they actually watch our content, but they did the due diligence to learn our names, which is cool, you know? Like
That is pretty sick.
it's a small thing, you know. Innies are killing it. Main 2 have been lacking for a while. Junkyard Joe is I'll probably read that this week. But I feel like when does that collected edition come out? That's
Should
next,
be
right?
November.
Okay. So I'm doing that. So I'm just trying, because the problem is because I've been so like burrowed into just DC collected editions, there's so much I haven't read, and now that I'm getting interview opportunities, I don't want to interview someone who I've never read before, you know. I want to at least have like read a little bit to ask interesting questions. But dude, Kelly Thompson is so good, dude, and she just ripped my heart out in Black Widow, dude. That opening, the first trade of Black Widow is heartbreaking.
It is.
Yeah. So the Ghost Machine has some big names and great artists.
It's not even just Johns who's writing over it's Peter J. Tomasi, who he's been friends with since the late 90s, when they met, and started working together on because he was editing JSA at the time. And those two have been close since. He brought Brad Meltzer over along. Obviously, if you know Brad Meltzer, Green Arrow, Justice League of America, also Identity Crisis. It's not like small people that he's brought. Like he's brought along some people who have done a lot of big things over at the big two. Francis Manipul as well, who drew The Flash, who's drawn Justice League and a lot of other books at DC and Marvel. Also decided to join them too. So it's not like a small like whatever it is thing. And I'm also pretty happy for that specific imprint along, because I've been feeling for years that Johns was just pretty much like the company guy over at DC, and it sort of felt like, was this what he was going to be known as, like the guy who stuck with DC for 20 plus years? But I'm really happy that he actually has some creator owned stuff now that he can say, like, this is his, it's not owned by anyone else. And I'm pretty happy for him on that.
Yeah. I also feel like towards the end, like Johns kept writing things that were supposed to have huge implications in the DC universe. And then because of editorial or delays or shifting in the companies, they would come out and not really affect anything. And I feel like that probably had to get at least a little frustrating to feel like that he was in this weird, like at the end, this weird little bubble that didn't matter, you know? Like I remember Doomsday Clock was supposed to have wild effects on the DC universe, and then it never did. So it's cool that now he doesn't have to worry about that like editorial interference, and he can write whatever he wants in whatever genre he wants, and that's got to just feel really liberating, you know?
I actually got the chance to ask him a question on DC Universe Infinite, or formerly known as DC Universe at the time, because he was
Mhm.
doing an Ask Me Anything, and I asked him like, what was up with the Doomsday Clock delays, and I said like, hey, I'm enjoying the book. I just wish that it came out on a better timely schedule. And because he was working on movies at the time, because he was then president of the company, as well as the person who was sort of like helping Zack Snyder and all those people along with the shared
Yeah,
universe. He said that pretty much sapped all the time out of most of the time that he could have been using to write the script for Doomsday Clock, which completely, set the like pushed the book off. Um, Unfortunately, I and I went, man, like that. It kind of stings, but if you're in that position, I mean, it just happens along, right?
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I remember like just being like going to the comic book store, like, asking like if Doomsday Clock like number 8, number 9, if those had come out yet, and then they're like,
Dude,
it got
it
pushed
took
a
like an
couple weeks.
extra year, right? Was it an extra year or
It was because that book first came out in 2017. The book got pushed 1 year, 2 months, and a week of
why do I
delays
feel like you're
overall.
Dr. Manhattan? You're like, it's 1 year, 6 months, 2 days, and 34 minutes later.
I counted.
And I'm reading the
I
last issue of Doomsday Clock.
I have every single cover in singles for that
You know,
stupid
I might
12
have
issues.
that too. I adore Doomsday Clock. I remember when the last issue came out, me and Jordan went to the comic book shop, and it came out on the day that we scheduled to go to Six Flags. So we were like having, I think my girlfriend at the time was driving, and me and Jordan were sitting reading Doomsday Clock in the car, but I read faster than him, so I was like being obnoxious and like gasping at certain things so that like he was gonna get to later. It was just such a classic memory for us. Um Okay, thank you so much for watching. And I think we lost Bunk. Going to jump off here, but we'll listen back on my lunch break. Give me something inspiring to lift to. So that's good. I've always loved Tomasi's work. I thought Identity Crisis was well written. The problems with some of the decisions with characters wasn't well liked. Um, and then does anyone else feel like Ghost Machine is more of a let's make a ton of money with Hollywood deals because we got burned by the DCU than an actual heartfelt imprint? I don't know. I definitely think that that is the goal for creator-owned stuff, is to like make something that could be a movie or a TV show.
It's
But
always
I
the goal.
also I also feel like there's such an authentic, like when you read the ending, there's like a letter that Jeff Johns wrote about like becoming a father and realizing like how far he'd go to protect his kids, and you can feel it. Like there is, I think, heart in at least Geiger, which is all I've read so far, about like how far will you go to protect your family. And I'll say that like my only thing is because it was it was only 6 issues. I felt like he got super attached to the new kids pretty quickly. Like that could have like maybe been like he was like calling them his kids. Like I felt like right away. So maybe that could have been a little more of an authentic timeline. But other than that, I thought the book was phenomenal. But I feel like DC screwed Johns. Bendis is the blame for some, because Johns had a lot of days. Yeah, like we just said. WBDC should never have put Jim Lee and Jeff Johns in high level production roles. When they did that, it hurt everyone. I think I remember him talking about how he didn't like having to wear a suit. He just wanted to be a creative type, and he didn't like having to go to like meetings and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean that's just like the added baggage if you get hired to that higher position, right? I mean, because he was chief creative, he got promoted to chief creative officer right before the New 52 hit. Um, and he's grown like, higher since then. I mean that's just part of the deal, right? Like if you are
Yeah.
DC's one of DC's like top 3 selling writers, you're going to get the recognition from not only like, your peers and the people who read your stuff, but also the people up top who are looking at, man, Green Lantern has sold the best every single month since 2005. Of course, you're probably going to get, up to those higher stakes. Sometimes like yeah, it just gets to your head. And probably could have played out differently if he was just a regular rider, but what we have is what we have. I don't mind where DC is now. It's been 5 years since Doomsday Clock number 12 has come out, and I've sort of already come to terms with like, new creative voices are needed, and that's completely okay.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
And that's the thing is like Doomsday Clock was one of the last series. I think for me, the last series I read single issues was Death Metal, but Doomsday Clock was one of the last things that like was probably the excruciating wait week to week. But I read Doomsday Clock earlier this year, and it's all collected. There's no delays anymore, and you can just enjoy the story. So that's the one downside about because I feel like I'm gonna have to start reading more single issues as I do more creator interviews because no one's doing an interview to sell their omnibus of work they wrote 20 years ago. So everyone's doing interviews to sell their single issues, and like I feel like I'm gonna have to try to shift my reading a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's just the barometer, right, of the comic book industry. Like, not everyone is on Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips level where you can put out an original graphic novel and expect it to sell. Because not everyone is Ed Brubaker, not everyone is Sean Phillips. But I mean, we still got DC Universe Infinite, and Marvel Unlimited, and Comixology Unlimited for all of the people who have Amazon Prime. So it's we have a big bevy of the ability to be able to read whatever and whenever.
I had a cool moment in my most recent video because this weird thing that I had, and I realized nobody cares what you own, but I never knew how to talk about a book that I didn't own physically. So in my last video, I did like where to start with Nightwing, and I wanted to include Robin Year One, and I wanted to include, from a friend that suggested it, Judd Winnick's Outsiders, but I didn't own either of them. Neither of them are like readily available in print. And I just said, screw it. I read them digitally. I'm going to include them, and I'm just going to throw up an image of the book and talk about it. And that just feels like it freed up, and people liked my video. No one was like, hey, you didn't show B-roll of that book or anything like that. So I feel like now I'm going to push more to people. Read this good book. It's not in print, but it's on DC Infinite or something. So, shouts out to Carlos. Hey Jake, the Promethea books arrived today. So he has entered every giveaway we've ever done, and he really wanted to. He was asking me. He said, "Should I get Promethean Absolute because they're getting reprinted?" And I was like, "Hey dude, if you don't care about the size, like I got some the 3 deluxe editions that I don't need anymore." And it was a lot more expensive to ship him than we both thought because he's in another country. So shouts out to you, Dom, in your last video for doing giveaways in the continental United States, because that is how you got to do it. Sadly,
my post office, for whatever reason, will not let me ship stuff like I literally went to my post because I still have an item from a giveaway earlier this year that I have to ship off to Canada. I talked to them about it, filled out the thing. They're like, no, we can't send this out. I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean? So, like, due to my post office, like, being, I guess, like, whatever, hard-headed, I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother. I'll sort this out with customs and pray, like, in a couple of months that gets cleared out so I can send the package over to my buddy in Canada, and I'll keep it continental US until I get a, like, super high-paying job and actually can pay for all of this, whatever it is, and when I move out. Because right now, not only does my office post office probably hate me, but I also don't have the funds to ship anything
I
outside
feel
the
you,
US.
dude. Even I'm in some group messages with Omar, and even he, like, when he talks about how much he spends on his giveaways, like, I just try to remember perspective. You know what I mean? Okay, so I remember I used to be more educated on this, but I felt like I don't remember what it was, but like Johns and Snyder were both writing like big events. So he was doing Death Metal, he was doing Doomsday Clock, right? And one of them was basically saying that continuity doesn't really matter. Anything that you want to be in continuity is in continuity. And the other one was saying no, continuity is like really specified and only certain things happen and certain things didn't. But I forget who was on which side. but I used to be more informed on that. I have a video where I talk about it in my DC Crisis event, but I felt like they were kind of going back and forth, like between their stuff. Um, but yeah, so okay, I have a question for you, man. What DC Finest are you most excited about, and which one do you think is going to sell the best?
I think the one that's going to sell the best is easily Batman because it has year 1 in it.
But it
It's
also
also
has year 2 in it.
yeah.
Doesn't that cancel each other out? Look,
It has year. I think most people
work
just
on
care
your
about the year
condition
1.
doesn't mean you have to pretend to work like year 2. Was that in your contract? You couldn't say anything bad about year 2.
There were a lot of things in that contract.
Oh, I know. Lawyer Omar is litigious. He's lawyer heavy, dude.
I mean, he has a I have my own lawyer too, bro. So it
is that
was
why?
a
Why did you
back
get a
and
lawyer?
forth between like what I could get in, but no, like I do think Batman is good. Like the first one is going to sell the most. On top of it coming out that first week, and also having the inclusion of year 1, just because I think that people with whatever just want to buy, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the one that's going to sell the most. The one I'm excited the most for, believe it or not, I'll probably make it. You know what? I'll probably make a video on this too because you just gave me a really good video idea. Is Plastic Man. I have not
Nice.
read a lot of those early, like a lot of these comics have like a lot of the early Quality Comics and Charlton Comics issues that I just haven't gotten around to. They published them in the DC archive trade paperbacks that came out like I want to say 2017, 2018. But all of those like collections pretty much just sat on my LCS's like retro part of their shop. No one really bought those, and they didn't really look appealing because they looked unappealing to me. But now that they're putting this out in a more modernized and no pun intended compact format, I am very excited to firstly get into some of those older 40s or 60s or whatever decade they're coming out, and also being able to experience Jack Cole's art, for example, for the first time.
Cool. So you don't think Plastic Man's gonna outsell year 1? Probably not.
No, there's no world out in this universe anyways that Plastic Man is going to outsell Batman at the DC Finest department.
Why do I feel like I'm getting like Arrested Development where it's like, and Plastic Man did outsell Batman, or like it's like you just go on this like 10-minute rant about how Plastic Man couldn't outsell Batman year 1, and then it's like when Plastic Man outsold Batman year 1. I don't know. Let's try to catch up on
It's like it like the picture of in 1948 when Harry S. Truman like supposedly lost the presidential race to Dewey, and he's holding up the
Yeah.
newspaper.
Yeah.
Dewey defeats Truman as he
Yeah.
literally
Plastic Man defeats Batman.
It's gonna I have that image in my head.
I've
now.
never read an individual Plastic Man comic, but I was hearing about that one Plastic Man No More. I don't know if that's come out yet, but I heard that was supposed to be super good.
Yeah, Christopher Cantwell is a good writer. Newsflash. It's good.
So, questions regarding single issues. I know we're all collect editions here, fans here, and I've heard some channels discuss it, but is it healthy for the industry long term, especially when it comes to omnis? I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like Brubaker and them are showing that you can sell something as a collected edition first and it will still sell, but I don't know. Like, I don't know what's best for the industry. I don't know what makes them money, what doesn't make them money. I just know it feels super expensive to go buy single issues every week. And with DC Ultra, why not just wait 30 days and read it digitally, And now I'm starting to feel like, do I even need to buy standard size hardcovers or trade paperbacks? Why don't I just wait? I don't know if that's bad for the industry. It probably is. But I also feel like sometimes collected edition owners buy more than the average, maybe buy more books than a comic book. I don't know. What do you think, man?
I'm very much of the opinion, and even with all this, that like every single part of being like comics out getting printed out to begin with, whether it's single, trade, omni, I mean, it's all dependent on the collector. I think most people, if you were to ask them, would still probably prefer singles, if in case for the fact of price, and storage spaced up, right? Omnis are such a niche market, and they are still to this day, that I doubt that we are headed towards a trade, like waiting for 6 months only for a thing to come out. It's like the apples to oranges thing where people are trying to compare manga with American comics when both of them work completely differently, along with the work regulations in Japan versus other countries, etc. Right? So my thing is, not like I said earlier, not everyone is Ed Brubaker. If you were to let a random, like, I don't want to call, people unknowns, but like a lesser known person who puts out an original
Yeah, maybe
graphic
not
novel
lesser
and that's
known.
it,
Like if
like
you were to
it's
go
not
to,
going to
yeah,
sell. Brubaker knows that he will sell because on the basis of fact that he's already made it, he's a big name, and that people will go buy his books no matter what. There is a market out for that. Not everybody has that market yet. Um, and again, like, we're both in super niche communities that we might feel a certain way because we only are given the outlooks of people with that certain mannerism of, we only buy omnis because like this is inconvenient for us, or we're not looking at sort of like the bigger picture. I don't, and it's the same for me. I mean, I don't work in the industry, but all I do know is that we aren't like the YouTube community, like the omnibus community, isn't indicative of every single person out there who collects. And I appreciate having the opportunity and choice to buy whatever format that I want to without being criticized, and also um just being able to choose whichever I want to buy at any convenient point.
or be like me and buy every format that they release.
There
I'm
are
just
people
kidding.
like that.
Yeah,
I know
I'm
that.
not like that anymore, but I have been wanting to do a video where me and my wife sit down and I show her every time I've quadruple dipped into a book or something, and then she makes me choose one that I have to give away or sell or something like that, just to like, because I need to. I'm running out of space, man. Then we got people in the chat fighting about if Jim Lee is a hard worker or naturally talented. So,
Well,
more
considering that
Jim Lee
he's the I mean, he's the president of DC Comics. I don't, you know.
Yeah, and didn't he? I fell for that prank he did the other day. Did you see him where he talked about he said that someone paid 35,000 for a Bluey sketch?
I
Did
did.
you
I
see that?
mean, yeah. I
And
mean, I
but
also
it,
saw the
it
Bluey
was a
sketch
prank.
back like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. But it turns out that was someone didn't pay for 35,000 for that. Um, so that's fun. That's cool, man. I feel like the finest editions are something that are exciting just because it just seems like they're really committing. Do you think that comes from James Gunn down, or do you think James Gunn is really more so just on the movie side?
I mean,
Because
I think it's both. I think what Gunn is realizing, and this is something that I really appreciate that he's seen, like he's capitalizing on, where Feige hasn't, is that he's being given an opportunity to promote the source material directly from top down, right? Again, we remember when he promoted those 10 specific comics for the 10
oh yeah,
projects
didn't they all
that
sell
got
out?
announced, right? Booster Gold Volume 1 by Johnson Katz, Wonder Woman by Phil Jimenez,
Oh,
Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
he said
Those
Batman.
books
Yeah.
immediately went out of print a week after he said that these were going to be the inspiration
Also,
of.
books came into print. Like Batman and Son was never an absolute. We had never gotten that absolute. And then he's doing Batman Brave and the Bold with Damian Wayne. And what do you know? Late in the next year, we have an absolute of that book.
Mhm.
So it is crazy. I have heard this. Did you hear that they're taking off a lot of the like more kid friendly stuff off DC Infinite?
I have.
I
I
don't
have no
know.
idea. I haven't
I
looked at
heard
the specifics as to why, but
I heard a theory that said that maybe there's a problem because there's no DC Infinite Kids app. You know how there's a YouTube Kids
Yep.
app? So maybe there's a problem where they don't want kids to go on DC Infinite to read Superman Smashes the Klan. And then next thing you know, they're reading some Black Label book that shows Batman's, private parts. But like maybe the solution is you need a DC Kids app where you can click over to that and it gets rid of the Black Label, it gets rid of the Vertigo, and it's just the kids stuff. I don't think that's a terrible idea. If it's one extra step, but I can still read Superman Smashes the Klan, which was amazing, by the way.
That's super.
Thank you for that recommendation, man.
Of course. You know what? Let me see if I can get mine and show what the what's it called? Autograph Mr. Yang. Hold up. Let's see. It's right on my top shelf. Let me see if I can. Oh, there we go. See, he signed it right there.
Oh. I also like that you had him sign it to you. I always feel like whenever they think you don't want to have it signed to you, and I'm like, please sign it to me. I'm never gonna sell this. This is a treasure possession.
Yeah, I never understood. Like, I know that there is like a bigger market for like in terms of speculation for like, oh, sell it for $50 to $100 more if the actual creator autographed it. But honestly, like if you meet the creator, you go through all of that time just to get that out. I mean, it's yours, man. Like they're not signing it for some other they're signing it literally for you. Yeah. That's what I've always interpreted autograph. Even when I was a kid, like getting stuff signed by sports players or whatever. Because I mean, I've been into, as you can tell from my hat, I mean, I've been into sports since forever. That's always been my prerogative.
Yeah. So someone said DC's official reason was saying that it's for compliance reasons. Internet content laws in several states, but it's strange when it gets picked. You could argue every book written pre-1970 was for kids. Yeah, so I don't want a 6-year-old to like be sat down and given DC Ultra, and then they click on the issue where Speedy's doing heroin. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe that's the right answer. I don't like how Marvel doesn't put max titles on Unlimited, but I mean, I don't know how much it takes to create an app. I don't know if creating a kids only section is a lot of work, but I think it's the right option because I want this stuff available.
I do know that because I have a contact at YouTube because I was in 2022 2023, those years, as I was like getting ready to graduate. I was looking out for internship opportunities, and one of my friends happened to know someone at YouTube, so I got connected with her. YouTube Kids has a super big section of developers. When she approached me, like, because I was looking for an entry-level job, she gave me the context to 3 specific people who were working at YouTube Kids who needed either internships or like low-level type of dev work. And so I know for a fact that it takes a lot to obviously, like, YouTube is one of the biggest companies and is the biggest subsection company in the world. Like, we know this. I mean, we're on the stupid platform anyway. Like, we know how big the servers are and etc. But it does take a lot to continue to curate the kids app because, well, not only do kids use it, it's also a very, very big part of what they do as a company.
Okay, so here's the question. Would you rather them remove all the kids apps and keep the adult DC comics, or would you rather they do what Marvel did and remove the adult DC comics and keep the kids comics?
I think they should just have one consolidated app and have a section for, like, similar to how Disney and Netflix and every single other
how it asks you, like, do you want to like remove the adult titles and that kind of stuff? Because
I think we should have like a switch where you can look, like, you have to like sign in or type in your password or type in a passcode to access those titles. Prove some sort of way, like, yeah, you're over 17, or like log in again so the company knows that, like, okay, this person who's probably 17 or older has a debit card and can pay all of that stuff. So it's there for someone who's 17. I'd rather have that than because honestly, I don't like stuff taking up storage space. A lot of these apps are like way over 100 megabytes now, which is and then considering the cache and all the data that's taken up by the storage, It's super nice and convenient just to have one.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where I lie in, but I know some other people might think differently.
So Chris is saying Gunn said a few days ago that he has no control over the comics. My guess is collaborative, but he can't directly demand collected editions to print Batman and Son. And then it's more the other way around, I guess. Collected editions department is capitalizing on Gunn. Well, at least DC's collected department is doing stuff now. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the only reason I have a Marvel shelf is because DC wasn't going to release a new Omni for a whole year, and I didn't want to wait. But now that DC's back, I don't remember the last time I bought a Marvel Omni. Um,
I'm
maybe
trying to.
Zdarsky
Oh, I
Daredevil
got
or
Daredevil
Tales of
by
the Jedi.
Chip. That's it.
I think my last two Marvel Omnis were Daredevil by Chip, Shadowlands, and Tales of the Jedi. But a lot of those came from my sponsor who takes care of me. Shouts out to Organic Price Books. Buying one or three books, save $2 with the code Braveboys. Was that it?
What a suave
Segue.
what a suave segue.
But what if I don't know what collected editions are coming out in the next few weeks? What can I do then?
You can also obviously head over to comicreleases.com where we literally have the world's largest tabulated collections of all the collected editions coming out just for $2. You can join our Patreon and have your own watch list, which I think is
Is
the
$2? That's less than the price of a single issue of a comic book.
It is, but we are proud of what we are doing, and we have a big update that is continuing to be rolled out, and I'll probably make a YouTube video with it or on it, with my partner in time, Mr. Webhead. So that's going to be fun.
My next video basically is going to end with a long commercial for your website because I totally used you for my top 10 most wanted DC collected editions. Not top wanted, but the ones that are coming out in 2025 that I'm going to pick up. So I have all the A cut done for that. I just need to get like B-roll of me scrolling through your website and stuff like that.
Awesome stuff. I just added Absolute Superman Red Sun and Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka Omnibus Volume 1 because those just got added by Penguin Random House. So
Nice.
if you are looking to add that to your watch list, it's available and ready for you there.
Okay, The Brave and the Boys. Is Liefeld worth money because of his name or because of his artistic ability?
There are people out there who I have met 3 Rob Liefeld fans at my comic shop.
There are dozens of us. I mean, here's the thing. Maybe he's worth money because of his name, but his name is worth money because he sold books and he sold books by doing art. So, I'm not the biggest fan of 90s art. It's a little over exaggerated for me, but at the time that was the style. I got to be honest, going through Chuck Dixon's Nightwing compendium, I was like, oh my God, I couldn't do this. But my friend helped me realize it's not so much I don't like Scott McDaniel's art. It's that I don't like his art with the older style of coloring that they were doing. So I started reading it digitally and switched my iPad to grayscale. And I read the rest of the book like fine. So it was the weirdest thing, but Scott McDaniel's weird, whatever they were trying in that time period of like weird coloring does not, it was just, it was overwhelming for me. Like, it was like, I don't know. So I don't know if I've ever read a book with Liefeld art, so I can't really say, but I've seen obviously the over dramatized like Captain America that looks like he's taken all the, so he can draw better than I can. And if he helps sell comics, that helps keep the industry afloat. And I can't say anything about him as a personal, as a person, but his books have sold. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think Liefeld is worth money because of his name or his artistic ability?
Oh man, I know for a fact, at least from the people who are fans of my comic shop and the people who idolize like a lot of those 90s people, that the art was what brought them and drew them in. I mean, I'm the same age as you, figure drawing. It doesn't speak to me personally because that's not the art that I grew up with, but I know for a lot of people, like the Liefelds of the world, the McFarlanes, the Silvestris, the Valentinos, like those guys were big because of their art and what they were doing, which was so radically different than whatever came before it, the previous 40, 50 years of drawing. I will, yeah. So I will say just yeah, because of the art. It might not be for me, but it definitely is for somebody out there.
And I was not criticizing the Captain America thing. I was specifically saying that I have not read any books with Liefeld art, so I don't want to be the judge. But I don't think that if he's only selling books because of his name. I think people buy his books because they like his art, and that might be why his name. Maybe now people see his name and they buy it, but in the beginning, his name was worth money because of his art. So
I
I
can't
don't.
name you
Yeah,
one person who said like, "Oh, Rob Liefeld is my favorite comic book writer." I like
yeah.
he wrote some of the best. I've never heard that, but what I have heard is, man, I loved it when Rob Liefeld was drawing New Mutants and X Force in the late '80s, early '90s. That's what I hear. Like the guy who drew Prophet. That is what keeps people invested.
Oh, fun. So how are things going on the YouTube creator side, man? How's your new job at Near Mint Condition? How's your channel going?
Well, okay, you know what? I meant to say this at the beginning, but first, I think if I need to verbalize it. Congrats on 5K for
Oh,
you.
thank you. Dude,
And
it's the growth is so explosive. We're already at 5,300. So I can't even keep up, man. But thank you so much. I feel like 5K is the last milestone before 10K, and it's
yeah,
gonna be
and
a
it
long
is.
journey. So thank you so much, man. It's really special. And I didn't even get to congratulate you on 500 because the next day you were at 1,000 and now you're at 1,300 and then you got an official job. So it's like, dude, I've been seeing your recent videos and I'm like, wait, he has how many views in 2 days? But I think it's because your videos are so current, so educational, and you put so much work into like the PowerPoints and that sort of stuff. So it's like literally like for people who aren't as plugged into all of this information, you're such a good news source. So your growth is just going to be explosive.
No, thank you, man. It was sort of like weird trying to find my niche back when I decided to go solo for YouTube. Because yeah, I remember when I started off the summer. I remember talking to a friend. I was like, man, the grind, like I just want to grind out the summer. Whatever happens, happens. If I hit 500, cool. If I don't hit 500, that's also cool. I think I'm like 1,500 subscribers now, which is like I'm halfway to 2K, which is insane to me. Like I can't comprehend that. Um, yeah, but what I realized for at least my side of the thing was like, because I will be getting into all the comics that I do love because I do read comics. It's just that I haven't sort of figured a way out to because I want to do like more in-depth things along with a lot of graphics to support it. Because I feel like motion graphics for me, like that's a big part of um what I am as a person. I want to be able to integrate that. So that's been like a weird slow roll to get to, but I mean I clearly found my niche. I know what I need to do now as a YouTuber to continue growing. And I appreciate that everyone seems to be tuned in too, like up like whether it's updating people on new books that are coming out and letting them know of all the contents and details that they might have not been able to find otherwise, or if it's comic book release date updates that people wouldn't have known about if I didn't put them out. Um, I always try to get everything right. I'm still learning a lot as a YouTube creator and still learning a lot to edit and all of that other stuff. But I will say that the journey has been super gratifying. And again, to be at the spot where I'm at, where I'm halfway to 2000, is like literally before August hit or August ends, is still insane to me. Like I still can't comprehend it.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. And honestly, dude, like it just goes to show that you put so much work to get to this point, and it's awesome, dude. So shout out to my friend Zach. Zach was one of our early viewers who became friends. So he supported us from like, I don't know, maybe like 100 subscribers or something.
That's awesome.
And yeah, this is a good point. If you don't like an artist or a writer or anybody in comics, still be happy for them because it is a brutal industry that like there are so, and I feel like there are also probably so many artists or writers who have talent that just never get recognized or never got a chance to be part of the zeitgeist. So
Yeah, I mean that's been an ongoing problem with like comics creators in general, right? Like if you don't know the right people, or if you just don't have like the right connections, it's super hard to get into an industry that already is like sort of doomed from the onset, right?
He has
Which
a
is unfortunate.
mug. There we go. To answer Ryan's question, I have seen Watchmen. I made my wife sit down and watch it with me because I didn't want to watch it alone. It is a almost 1-to-1 adaptation of the comic. The only thing that's different is the pacing is way faster and the placement of certain flashbacks are wildly different because of the pacing. So the main problem with it is that there'll be this big impactful moment and then it rushes to the next thing because they only have 2 movies. So you never get to sit with anything that happens. I don't think that Rorschach is necessarily toned down. Like he still said some horrible, because Rorschach is not a character that you're supposed to be a fan of. You were supposed to hate Rorschach, you know. He's everything wrong with a vigilante. And he still makes quotes like when Silk Spectre or when Lord Euspectic is like, oh, how can you defend the comedian? He did this to my mother. He goes, I'm not here to defend moral lapses of men who died in their country. And she's like, moral lapses? He did this to my mother. You know, so Rorschach's a piece of crap in this movie. I don't like his voice acting per se because his voice is a little more mellow and it doesn't sound as like hateful, but he's definitely not toned down. And they have everything from all the Black Freighter stuff, and how they edit the Black Freighter stuff in is actually super interesting. So I think it's worth watching if you're open to it, but I definitely don't think it's toned down. It's just the pacing is incredibly fast and the flashbacks are in a different order than you're used to. So
Interesting.
yeah. I don't hate the art style. It's like that 3D animation almost. But I I also am not the most critical fan in the world. I'm just happy that we're getting these things, you know. Um, if you're at, yeah, I've watched like the ultimate cut, the director's cut. I saw all the Zack Snyder. I used to love Zack Snyder. Don't come at me if you guys love Zack Snyder. I just think that maybe he should be in charge of the camera, but not in charge of the story. That's my
I think that's a very mild take, honestly.
okay. Yeah, but dude, sometimes people don't like mild takes about Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder, dude, does not have mild fans. So like
He
I
doesn't
like
know.
I like Zack Snyder when I was growing up because I thought he was super cool. And I'll still check out some of his new stuff. Like I watched Rebel Moon. I'm probably not gonna watch the director's cut or Rebel Moon 2, you know, but some of his stuff was so influential to me as a kid. Interview question. I really draw a parallel to sports. Certain athletes have peak dominance, but can be forgotten if they don't achieve a title run. Is this similar to comics? Let's have you fill this one since you're more of a sports fan than me.
I am. So yeah, but he's talking about like there are like if you don't win a championship as a basketball player, like let's just say, man, you were like a super really good like star or whatever, right? You win an MVP, maybe you win something cool, like whatever, like cool awards, but you never win a championship. You don't come out in the end. A sports player that I know like Charles Barkley, for example, right? Charles Barkley in the 1990s was viewed as one of like the best players, like right next to Michael Jordan. He was the most dominant power forward in the 90s, but he never won a championship. So even though he won an MVP, he won a lot of things. He didn't get to that end goal of we get it to the yeah, get it to the end. I'm trying to think of a specific comic book creator that is like him in a lot of ways, where like maybe they had like one or two good series, but they never had like one series that like stood out from the rest. And I can't think of anyone like that off the top of my head right now. Maybe an
I was
artist.
gonna make a joke and say the best comic book writer of all time or something just to mess with you, but
Ah, my goodness.
so Alex Ross is revered nowadays, but I don't see any mainstream comic art that dares to replicate that style. But yeah, I feel like you can't. No one can replicate that style. It's so unique to him, you know? And I'm glad that he did it exactly in his own way. Wait, I liked Sucker Punch growing up. I thought that movie was fun. It had a cool soundtrack and it had pretty women doing action. I don't think I like Sucker
Yeah,
Punch
the
anymore.
movies that I don't mind as much from Zach are probably 300.
Oh my god, seeing 300 as a kid, I was too young to see it in theaters, but my dad took me anyways, and I felt so cool in that movie. I thought 300 was rad. And I never got to see Watchmen in theaters, but Watchmen was so cool to me because I didn't even know how Watchmen tied to DC, but I was just obsessed with the trailer. I'd watch that trailer on repeat. That it got me to buy my first trade paperback of Watchmen when I was young, and I remember watching like a 240p resolution webcam cut of Watchmen like on my computer on one of those sketchy websites because I wasn't allowed to see it in theaters. So that to me was impactful. Um, I don't think I've seen Dawn of the Dead. That might have been a little before my time.
I think I've watched every Snyder movie, or Snyder like overall DC movie in theaters, because that was at the time when like my family still had like, I guess, faith in DC, even though I didn't know it because I was like a teen, like a stupid high schooler who didn't know much about whatever. I mean, I watched every single MCU movie from like 2012 onwards, and then every single DC movie in theaters from 2013 onwards. I haven't watched a DC movie in theaters since Shazam. I think that was the last one I watched in theaters. I haven't watched one in theaters since. So,
Dude, I wanted to like wear like a hoodie that hid my face when I went to see Flash in theaters. I was just so embarrassed walking out of that movie. What I will say, Ryan, is the way they edit the Black Freighter clips into the movie actually helped me understand Black Freighter on a level deeper than I really ever got it in the comics. And I'm excited to go back and read Watchmen again, like the comic book, now that I understand the Black Freighter a bit more, because there's some times where it's cutting back and forth between what the Black Freighter is paralleling with what's going on in the actual book. And it really, like, it clicked for me in a way that, like, I understood it deeper. Shouts out to the other Dom in the comic book world, who I will be doing a stream with tonight.
what's up, Mr. Groves?
Yeah, so I'm doing a morning show and an evening show. So today's a Dom sandwich for me.
That sounded so wrong.
I know. Someone was like 2 Doms in one. Someone in my group message was like 2 Doms in one day, and I was like, that makes me sound weird.
They made the reference. They're goated.
And you know what? If you loved Flash, that's okay. I don't think my Flash would put a baby in a microwave, but you know what? It is what it is. I feel like they just gave up on the CGI of that movie. They were just like, well, this movie's gonna suck. Let's not waste any more money on CGI. That CGI was like PS2 level graphics.
You can tell where the shareholders are putting their money in.
I think the director's cut or the ultimate cut of Watchmen is so important because I almost feel like they were trying to get at that the real hero in Watchmen isn't the superheroes who dress up, but it's that newsstand Bernard guy who shields the other Bernard. Like that's the real hero, not someone who puts a costume on and beats up poor people. That was a baby protecting Microwave. Okay. I did.
Yeah, they're not a, I actually have a story, not to get too much into Mints and Wars, but there did, like, in 2022, there were reports that they were in Hawaii, and not doing great stuff.
Yeah.
So like, I kid you not,
having brutal fight night karaoke thing.
Well, no. Here's the thing. I was in Hawaii at the same, like, near same location that they were in. And I had 2 friends who texted me about, like, the news, and they said, Dom, you didn't get kicked out or like beat up, did you? I'm like, no, I'm still alive.
Were you on like the same island or?
Yeah, same island, same everything, dude. It was insane.
Dang, you're lucky he didn't kidnap you.
I know.
I won't criticize. I mean, I'll criticize the Flash CGI. I know people didn't like Black Panther versus Killmonger. I just thought that movie was dope and I was okay with it. For me, though, what I really respect is James Gunn saying, I finished filming a year before our movie came out to give VFX artists their time.
So, which is pretty incredible considering that, well, first of all, hi, Chain to Soup, what's up? But no, like, I think Marvel has definitely had a problem for at least the last 9 years of overworking the VFX studios that they outsource their movies to, and not giving people enough time to render their movies, render the videos and images in a clear and concise form, which is why you had Black Panther versus Killmonger looking like Marvel Future Fight on my phone. Like, I kid you not, I thought I was, but I mean, you could tell where they spent the money. Like, Infinity War comes out, and it's a beautiful looking movie. I wish that they were a lot more consistent with that, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I want everyone to be treated fairly and have a doable amount of work in a doable time period. And I'm okay waiting longer and getting less movies if that's the case. We have enough superhero movies to where people shouldn't be completely overworked. Like, I'll wait longer for a better product. That's why, like, I'm not as much as I wish I could watch Superman this, like today, I'd rather wait until it's the perfect movie it's supposed to be, and James Gunn seems like he understands. Like, to have someone that creates the movies be in charge of the movies just makes sense, because he knows what, he's not rushing anything. And that's giving me more faith than anything, but I'm also a DC apologist. So I'd watch the worst DC movies in the world. Like, I remember
I've
the
watched
night,
Batman and Robin like 3 times in my life, so.
dude, I remember when the night I was seeing Justice League, I was eating sushi with my partner at the time. And she was like, "Why do you seem so stressed?" And I'm like, "It's going to be terrible." And she's like, "You don't know that yet." I'm like, "It's going to be terrible, but I still have to see it." She's like, "Well, if it's stressing you out, we don't have to go." And I was like, "You don't understand. I have to go, and it's going to be terrible, and it's going to be hard, but I have to." And she's like, "Why?" I'm like, "You just don't understand. It's the first Justice League movie of all time, and it's going to be terrible." And it was. And I just left that movie so sad,
Yeah, that was for me my first, like, I remember, like, yeah, my junior year, high school, I was watching that movie and I was expecting it to, like, I didn't know what I was expecting. I just didn't expect that to come out. I remember leaving the theater so visibly, like, disappointed. Um and I'm like, man, like, they did not do any of my favorite characters, no pun intended, justice. I It's crazy, right? Like, you have the most iconic characters on the screen. The best movie that comes out that year isn't Justice League. It's freaking Coco. Um, which is it still feels weird to me.
I will say there's one moment of the Justice League that actually made me have like a positive feeling or a smile. I loved the moment where Flash races in and saves one person from the building and he's really happy. And you look over and Superman's carrying an entire apartment complex full of people. That was like the one moment in that movie that I was like, huh, maybe I feel something other than embarrassment. What books are you reading right now? Anything interesting?
what am I reading? That is a great question because I feel like I have been so strapped with everything out that I haven't gotten too much. Let me see if I can pull out some of the issues that I have on here. I did finish Avengers Twilight. I did have a running series called Dom Reed's Avengers Twilight that didn't go much of anywhere, but this series did finish not too long ago, and I finally caught up to it, and I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed. It's kind of sad though because, like, Daniel Acuna is an amazing artist. I've loved his work since he filled in on Jeff Johns' Green Lantern back in the day. But since Marvel doesn't do deluxes anymore, I guess. Um,
That makes me
it's good.
sad. Sometimes
Yeah,
I don't
it's
need
a,
a
it's a
full
shame it's
omnibus.
never gonna get that deluxe treatment that it deserves rightfully. But that it is what it is on that front. I have finished the last, I guess, arc of Batman Superman World's Finest. This is where I'm gonna be officially dropping off. Such a cool cover by
Is that the
Dan
last
Mora.
Dan Mora issue?
It's the last Dan Mora issue before he heads off to draw Superman with Joshua Williamson, and of course Justice League with Mark Waid. I've been reading and liking this a lot. This is the first issue of Zatanna Bring the House Down by Mariko Tamaki and Javier Rodriguez, who is just flat out amazing at the
Wow.
spread pages and the panels that he does in every single book. No, like, yeah, big credits to him on that book, man. Like, I really want that to come out in deluxe at some point, but I know that it probably won't. Um, this is probably the last issue of this run I'm reading too, but Batman 150 by Chip Zdarsky, Jorge Jimenez, Mike Hawthorne, Dennis Cowan, who also worked on this too. Really good issue. Zdarsky's Batman run has been a bit inconsistent for me, but what keeps pulling me in is that he just really gets Bruce's voice down. I think better than a lot of creators have had, and even if you're not down with the plots and um, the decisions to put in Failsafe and Zur-En-Arrh,
I like
his
that
voice
stuff.
for Bruce is absolutely outstanding. I can't get past that notion. So that is what I am most of
Currently
what I'm
reading.
currently reading. And then yeah, I'm still trying to finish this Thick Boy. I'm near at the tail end of the regular JLD run with Rom V on it. Your because I think your story, right, was that you dropped off after 20 issues. I dropped off for not the same reason. Um, but for the reason that I didn't know who Rom V was, so I dropped off because I'm like, I don't know who this person is. And then I'm like, okay, I love almost everything that this guy writes. Um, so that's where I'm at.
So, two questions. When you drop a book, do you mean you're dropping it just physically, but when it's on DC Infinite, you'll still read it, or does that mean you're just done for now?
I'm
Like
just yeah, no, I'm just done.
okay.
Um,
And then my next question is, I haven't read World's Finest since they finished up the Kingdom Come stuff, and I haven't read Batman by Zdarsky since Volume 2. So are those still worth reading? Like, because I got like overwhelmed because I felt like with Batman there were so many crossovers that there was like the Catwoman stuff, and then before I knew it, there was Absolute Power. Like, which one of those are still worth reading for me?
I would say like read Batman by Zdarsky when it's all finished in like overall. I think it's not that a lot of people are treating it like it's the worst run in the world, which it isn't. I think the hate for that book has been completely
Is
overblown,
wait, but
and it's
isn't every
particularly
Batman
because
run
of the
that
Zur-En-Arrh stuff. That's
But
it.
isn't every current Batman run the worst Batman run ever until a few months go by or a few years go by, and then it's the most wanted omnibus on the poll?
I don't get it. I read all of Tom King's run in singles, and I did not like that run in singles. But
There was nothing you liked about. There were some good parts, but
you know
in
I'd
collected
still
edition,
say
it's so much. Okay, have you read it since it's been collected though, or like
I mean, there is one arc that I love, and I keep telling people this because like they're like, "Oh, you hate to no." I love the double date so much.
yes, that's my favorite of the whole run.
It is my
I think
favorite Batman story in the 2010s. I will die on that hill.
I'm so happy
Um,
that's the cover for the deluxe edition too.
yeah, that was pretty cool.
So that was the best. I really liked the Cold Days arc where it was like 10 Angry Men or whatever, where Batman realizes that he got tricked into thinking Mr. Freeze was the bad guy. So he uses his connections to get placed on the jury, and he has to convince the jury that Batman can make a mistake. That's brilliant to me. Like that was so good. But like I don't know. I almost feel like maybe the run would have been better if the wedding had a different outcome. You know, like I don't know, man. I would have loved
I
to,
think I think my problem with Tom King's run is that there's like 40 issues of storytelling and over 80.
yeah.
It
There's
is
like
incredibly
how many
decompressed.
how many issues was it just Batman going cat, and then
85.
she going
As you go into.
bat, and then Bane go break your damn back, and it's like not every line has to be a poem. You're not a poet. You know what I mean? Like, and then for me, nothing was more brutal than waiting for the new issue, buying it when I didn't have a lot of money, sitting down to read, and I'm like, we're still in the Nightmare arc. Like,
Yeah, that's a lot of people did not like that. That was the most frustrating thing for me reading it month to month. And this actually goes for a lot of books. That some people might be like enjoyable. I'm like, man, I just can't get into it because there's just nothing happening. I think the main pitfall with Tom King's Batman, besides like I'm not keen on his voice too much, but I know that like other people like it, so I'm not really like I guess all that critical of it. What I am critical of though is like, yeah, that's like in an 85 issue long run, there's only like 30 to 40 issues of actual plot going on. I think if you cut a lot of those arcs, slice it in half, or figure out a way to reconfigure some of the storytelling, I think it would have been a lot more keen with audiences. It's just that when you know, like Tom King works best when you tell him to work in a closed room with 6 to 12 issues and tell him write a story about whatever character that you want to do. And you know, I mean, a lot of his most famous books are 6 to 12 issues. But the thing with Batman is just like he didn't have that closed poetic environment that makes that gives him the creative output to pour in. And whatever we got is what we got, but people still want that omnibus.
Yeah. And it just, because I actually liked it for me, because it was my first time reading single issues, and that was the Batman run. And for me, I loved it. And maybe I'm a little blinded by nostalgia on it, but for me, I don't know if I'll get the omnibus just because I have the deluxe editions and I have it signed. So plus I love having that cover with the double date issue on it. Like that's so special. But I've always liked Tom King's writing. There's a few books I didn't like. I didn't like Rorschach because it was like industry inside jokes I didn't understand, and I didn't like Heroes in Crisis. But I didn't realize how hated Tom King was until I did a 10 best Tom King run video, or sorry, 10 best Tom King book video. Like I still get comments of people being like, I'll never, you know, none of them are worth reading because he's a CIA dog. And I was like, oh my God, like
there are a lot of people like that.
It became such a political thing, and I had never even considered it. You know, like I'm far from a controversial YouTuber. I'm pretty mild and safe, but I didn't realize how like objectively hated he was on like almost a political level. Like I said, I really liked Gotham City Year One because it gave me an origin to something I didn't know I wanted. And like I had people come out like that book is like the worst book ever made. Yeah. So it's interesting because sometimes I don't know what's hated or what's political or what's not. I just like Tom King's writing. I think he makes me care about characters I've never cared about before, you know? And I'm happy with it, you know. I want to read Penguin and I want to read Wonder Woman. So those are ones I'm looking forward to reading soon.
Wonder Woman is a beautifully drawn book, but that's also another one I'm just like waiting out on. Because Tom King always I found this out, man. Like I'll judge a Tom King book when it's finished. Don't read it in singles because of that decompression. I think Wonder Woman is lending itself a lot to that. But also like if it ever gets an omnibus, having that Daniel Sampere art is going to be flat out amazing to see it oversized. I mean, I can't name you one Tom King book that wasn't like not beautifully drawn in like the last 6 years.
Even Heroes in Crisis, which is the book I like the least, but I don't think it was necessarily all his fault, has like the most gorgeous art I've ever seen in my life, you know? So, dude, this was a lot of fun. Dom, where can they find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel. If I'm not at 1,500 subscribers yet, please go subscribe. I am almost there. So if you guys are brand new, be sure to click on that. You can also find me at comicreleases.com where I do have, again, we do have the single longest running up-to-date list of collected editions in the world. You can add stuff to your watch list for only $2 a month, which is not even, it's not even the price of a McChicken. So you can find me there. You can also find me at Near Mint Condition, where I do the heavy lifting for Mr. Omar and
Oh, wait, you do the heavy lifting. He told me it was the medium lifting.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I'm just kidding. He never said that.
So you can find me there too.
That's awesome, man. And guys, I'm Jake from the Brave and the Boys. You probably already, you know, if you're watching this, you might be subscribed already. So if not, go ahead and subscribe. You can also find us. We have a Discord. We recently started a Patreon, and we have an Instagram. And we are also sponsored by Organic Price Books. There, if you're buying 1 to 3 books, you can save $2 with the code Braveboys, or buying 4 or more, save 5% with the code Braveboyssit. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is so fun to finally have a recurring show. We will be back. Maybe not at 8 o'clock, but 8:01, 8:02, depending on how many sunny side eggs we eat, or muffins we eat. But we will catch you guys next week, and we will play you out with our let me scroll with our intro.